Hello, this is Ken Quayer with Tyler Properties. I'm here in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. Today's February 26, 2012, and it's another perfect sunny 71 degrees outside. First, I want to thank you for taking the time to review the information I've put together. While I can't take credit for the data you'll see here today, my only hope is to help you make a little more sense of it. The majority of the information we'll be reviewing actually comes from a source called the Cromford Report. The Cromford Report was created by Mike Orr and only focuses on the Phoenix metro area real estate market. Mike holds a master's degree in mathematics from the University of Oxford in England and spent 31 years in the computer industry. He was also more recently appointed as a new director of the Center for Real Estate Theory and Practice at the W.P. Carey School of Business at the Arizona State University. Now, one of the things that sets the Cromford Report apart from other real estate resources is that the data is collected and scrubbed for errors on a daily basis from many resources like the Multiple Listing Service, the County Assessor's Office, and various other public records. These are by far the most accurate and up-to-date real estate statistics you can find for the Phoenix area. Now, before I get started, we will have to agree on one simple premise. It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. This means just what it says. So many people are sure they know the facts because they rely on various media resources and give them accurate information. And unfortunately, when the information is wrong, it can get very costly. So let's take a look at what we know for sure, or should I say what we think we know for sure. A glut of foreclosure homes overhangs the market. Shadow inventory is huge and here to stay. A new wave of foreclosures is coming. Home prices are still declining. What I like to do is address these bullets one at a time so all the pieces can fall together for you. A glut of foreclosure homes overhangs the market. Well, let's take a look at the foreclosure situation here in Phoenix. As you can see, if you clump the short sales, which are represented here in the light blue, the REOs in red, and HUD homes in brown, you put them together and you follow them for the last 12 months, you start to see or get a picture of how far the active distressed listings have decreased. Now, I put the short sales in the mix with bank-owned homes because they represent distressed sales just as much as an already foreclosed home. And basically, the short sale is, if it's unsuccessful, it'll end up as an REO or a HUD anyway. So to better illustrate how far they've improved, HUD listings are down 92%, REO listings down 73%, short sales down 76%. Now, on the next few slides, you can get an idea of how most of these numbers break down by city. I took some of the larger cities in the valley, Phoenix, and these are year over year, 2011, 2012, on through. Phoenix, 78% down, Mesa, 77, Scottsdale, so on. This is the same cities, only represented in the decrease by the dollar value of the homes, down 71%, 72%. There are a few more cities, Queen Creek, Surprise, even into Paradise Valley, 85, 85, 76, and again, these same cities based in dollar value. Now, basically, you can see the aluminum foreclosure inventory is pretty much a myth, or at the very least, it's grossly over-exaggerated. Now, let's move on to our next bullet. Shadow inventory is huge and here to stay. First of all, what is shadow inventory? Basically, it's the homes that the banks have foreclosed on, but currently have not listed for sale on the market, which would be considered an unlisted REO or a bank-owned home. Now, a lot of people are concerned that the banks are sitting on thousands of foreclosed homes, and any day now they're going to dump them on the market and cause the housing values to plummet even farther than they already have. Now, I can't speak for all the United States, but I will show you that this is not the case here in Phoenix. In order to show you where we stand on shadow inventory, we first need to know how we track it. Now, we know that each trustee sale is tracked every day. We know when a lender acquires a home, trustee sale completed, trustee deed recorded, and we know when a lender sells an REO, warranty deed recorded. Basically, when it becomes a bank-owned home is when the trustee deed is recorded. So through the county assessor's office, everything is accounted for. Nothing falls through the cracks. Even if it's picked up by an investor or a homeowner here as a warranty deed, it's tracked. Now here we have a chart to illustrate all the trustee sales per month since 2006. way down here. Now some of these were sold to investors or new homeowners, but if you've ever spent any time on the actual courthouse steps where the trustee sale takes place, you'd know that well over 90% of the homes being sold at the trustee sale ends up going back to the bank as an REO or a bank-owned foreclosure. Mainly because the majority of homes are so far upside down for an investor or a potential homeowner to even have an interest in it. Now you may have noticed these two large dips here and here in sales activity. What these dips represent are the two moratoriums placed on foreclosures, the first by the government and the second by Bank of America. Now, by the way, when Bank of America set their moratorium, several other large banks followed suit. That had a lot to do with the talk about robo-signing and the other potential legal issues from the allegations of illegal foreclosure activity at the time. So you see here, the curve would have been much more consistent if you were to take the moratoriums out of the equation. And it's pretty clear we are well on our way down in the number of trustee sales per month. Now, if we were to subtract the number of homes that were actually picked up by an investor or a new homeowner at the trustee sale, you'd end up with all the remaining REO or bank-owned properties that the banks took back. And this next chart here reflects those unlisted REO homes. As you can see, they really peaked in 2010. They started a steady decline from May 2011 all the way through to December. Currently, as of the end of January 2012, the number has dropped even farther to 4,480. This one's currently on this chart, 4,973. So we're still moving in the right direction. Now, as for the dip you see in 2010, 2011 through here, that was the second moratorium we spoke about earlier by Bank of America. So again, the curve here would have been more consistent had the moratorium not taken place. Now, this information does bring up a question. Why is shadow inventory shrinking? Well, looking at this chart here, you can see it's pretty simple. Less and less people here in Phoenix are falling behind in their housing payments. The number of trustee sale notices per month shown here illustrates the fact that December 31st, 2012, the number was down to 3,420 for the month. That's down from 10,558 notices at the peak in March 2009. That's a drop of over 300%. Now let's visit another popular question regarding potential shadow inventory. What about the delinquent loans that haven't received a trustee sale notice from the bank yet? So basically, they're delinquent, they're behind their payments, but the bank hasn't notified them about foreclosure yet. Well, let's address these by looking at some of the numbers. According to the Lender Processing Services, which is a default servicing company that actually handles 50% of all mortgages in the United States, we can see a significant drop in the number of non-current home loans for the state of Arizona, 12.4 down to 7.4. In fact, we're getting even closer on a daily basis to a normal market. Typically, the normal level of non-current home loans would be around 4.5%. We're at 7.4. We're still moving in the right direction. Now, if you think about what these delinquent loans represent, and knowing that about half of all these homes will eventually be listed as short sales, we can expect these numbers to drop even closer to normal as more and more short sales make it to the closing table. Just another piece of information regarding short sales. About 18 months ago, only 3 out of every 10 short sales were successful. Today, we're seeing the number climb to about 7 out of 10. This is just another reason for the decline in the number of delinquent loans that haven't received a foreclosure notice. As more homes reach a successful short sale, less homes will go into foreclosure. On this next slide, we can see another illustration of how much things have improved. Arizona has dropped by 34.4% in the number of home loan delinquencies, which is more than any other state in the country. And on this next slide, we can go even deeper. Between February 2010 and November 2011, non-current home loans, we were number 3. We're currently number 27. Late but not foreclosure, we were number 6. We're number 29 now. In foreclosure, we were number 4 in the country. Now we're number 23. As you can see, we've come a very long way. Now let's get on to our third of 4 bullets. New wave of foreclosures is coming. We know we can track a pending foreclosure by gathering data from the county assessor's office. Basically, anytime a bank wishes to foreclose in Arizona, they have to record a notice of trustee sale with the county assessor. So on this next chart, as you can see, since the peak, which was around the end of 2009 through the beginning of 2010, the number of pending foreclosures has been on a steady decline, and even steeper decline through 2011, all the way through the month of January 2012. Something to keep in mind here, we are currently at around 18,000 pending foreclosures at the end of January 2012. Historically, in a normal market, this number is always around 10 to 12,000. So again, we are very rapidly approaching a normal market. So let's sum up the foreclosure situation real quick. We are about 85% through the disaster. REOs are becoming an endangered species. Banks increasingly preferring short sales. Third parties becoming trustees and primary buyers. That's what's happening at the courthouse steps. HARP 2.0 expected to be effective for Arizona, a government program that actually works. And in Phoenix, 2012 will be a very different market. One quick note about HARP. This is kind of a big deal here. The new guidelines are going to tremendously improve an already improving market. Just a sample of some of the changes that are going into effect. There will be no debt-to-income ratio required to refinance an upside-down home. There will be no cap on the loan-to-value on the home. Used to be 80, then they bumped it up to 125%. That didn't help. Now they've just lifted the cap completely. In many cases, you won't even have to prove you have the reasonable ability to pay, as long as you refinance through the current lender and the new payment, isn't 20% or higher than the current payment. Obviously, the payment's not going to be higher. You're refinancing to lower the payment. So, obviously, lending is definitely going to improve quite a bit. Now, on to the fourth and final bullet. Home prices are still declining. While this may be true in certain portions of the country, we are not seeing this here in Phoenix. One of the best and most accurate ways to get a true idea of how home values are moving is to calculate the home's value by a sales price per square foot, right through here. And as you can see here, we've been on a steady and consistent increase in the average sales price per foot for homes in the greater Phoenix area since August 2011. And although we have seen a few peaks and valleys in previous months here, it's pretty clear these recent 6 months reflect the single longest steady upward movement in price per square foot values we've seen in the last 26 months. Also, if you look at all the other indicators I've already covered, I feel there's a good reason to expect these numbers to continue to increase as the market moves further towards its recovery. Another aspect of any good recovery, supply and demand. What comprises supply and demand? Well, here we can see supply equals active listings, demand equals average daily sales over the last year. Let's start by taking a look at the active listings real quick. Here you can see the active listings are way down. As you can see here, the number of active listings peaked in November, December through 2007 and began a sharp decline in 2009. It peaked again in 2010, December, all the way to its current and lowest number in January 2012. Now for this big gap you see right here, remember the foreclosure moratoriums we talked about earlier? As you can see, without these two dips, this is the government moratorium, this is the Bank of America moratorium. Foreclosures, as a result, this curve would have been much more consistent without these moratoriums involved. Lastly, that one trending line here, if you take a look, you can see what an historically normal market pace would have been. You can also notice that since the market collapsed, we've currently dropped well below the normal pace. In fact, we are currently at an amount that would have been considered normal for the market in 2002. Now, if we take supply, which is represented by these active listings here, and divide it by demand, which is the average daily sales over last year, we get what's called our days inventory. Days inventory is an excellent measure of market health. And looking back on our days inventory, we can see once again how much the Phoenix market has improved. Coming through here, days inventory. We're going to go step by step. 2001, 2002, we were in a pretty normal market. Nothing big happening. From 2003 to the beginning of 2006, we were in the process of creating our bubble. and there were some definite warning signs that no one was taking heed to. This is the time when people were bidding just to get a lot to build a home on in a new community. In 2006 and 2007, we had stable pricing for the most part, but what was troubling is the inventory was still rising. Speculative builders and investors were taking advantage of the financial feeding frenzy. In many cases, they were buying homes and selling them for a profit before the construction had even been completed. This led us into our crash and massive decline in home values. If you're interested in more detailed insight on all that transpired, please feel free to give me a call or an email. There's way too much information and data to bore you with the details here. Lastly, here you can see since early 2009, we've been in a stabilization period, and for the last 15 months, including January, February 2012, not listed here, our days inventory has steadily declined. Finally, our current days inventory has dropped well below what would be considered a normal market. Normal would be around 140 days of inventory. We're at 90 as of January 2012. So with all this data, it begs the question, if supply is way down, why aren't prices rising? Well, we've already shown that prices are actually on the rise. Some areas in Phoenix saw increases as high as 10% through 2011. Many saw moderate increases from 4 to 8%, and a smaller percentage of Phoenix stayed relatively flat, which would include some of the very high-end homes in the valley. Now, if we revisit the earlier chart, you can see that the average increase in sales price per square foot is up a total of 9% between August 2011 to the beginning of February 2012. Now, there is a common theory out there that the longer it takes before prices respond, the larger the response is likely to be. Historically, it takes 12 to 18 months for home values to respond to a decrease in supply over demand. We dropped below what is considered normal supply for homes about 10 months ago. Going back to our active listing charts, you can see our active listings have been dropping for the last 15 months straight. Right here. And based on the decrease in shadow inventory and foreclosures, I believe we'll begin to even see greater response in 2012. Now, if you hang on with me for just a couple more charts, we'll be through all this. I know it's been a lot of information. I'd like to take you back in time just a bit. 1970. Since 1970, we had two major housing bubbles. The two graphs show inflation-adjusted housing prices and nominal housing prices. They are accompanied by these thinner trending lines, as you can see here. What's interesting to note is how we have varied drastically from the trending lines starting in early 2000. Yet, as always, the market's managed to reset itself. And as you can see, the actual figures have come down to meet with where the trending lines would have predicted we should have been all along. Now, I personally don't feel it matters what took place to cause this event or any of the past events for that matter. What does matter is throughout history, the housing market has always balanced out. From my perspective, we are once again in balance. I won't get too deep into this subject here, but for what it's worth, the majority of wealth in any fluctuating housing market has always been generated at the exact point we find ourselves in right now. In this last chart, I just wanted to take you back even a little bit further in time, all the way back to 1890. Here, as you can see, even with the advent of two world wars, and let's not forget the Great Depression, the recent housing bubble, it's still the single largest artificial inflation of home values in 126 years. Although it took a full 6 years, we have once again managed to reset the housing market back to normal. In my experience, as history clearly illustrates, the process will start all over again and people will start buying and the housing prices will start to increase. Mainly because we are a country of opportunists. If there's a way to make a quick buck, amnesia will set in and the buying will start all over again. On that note, I'm going to leave you with a few predictions from Mike Orr of the Conference Report. Phoenix will not behave like a national market. Case-Shiller Index for Phoenix will rise in the coming months. Supply shortage will get worse. Foreclosure levels close to normal by the end of the year. Distressed properties will get more scarce. They already are. Lenders will ease loan underwriting guidelines. We've talked about the refinancing guidelines, they're also starting to ease the guidelines for normal lending. Buyer sentiment will improve. We're seeing multiple offers in the matter of 1 or 2 days here in the Valley on a home. Builders will start to re-enter the market. They are starting to re-enter the market, and the more the home values currently rise, the better the opportunity for the builders to make a profit and build more homes. Pricing will get more interesting. Finally, a few of my personal thoughts. If you've been thinking of getting into the housing market, either as a first-time home buyer, an investor, relocation to the Valley, or if you're simply interested in moving up in square footage, I personally believe there will never again in our lifetimes be another opportunity like the one in front of us right now. Remember, this recent housing bubble was the largest artificial inflation of home values in U.S. history. Based on the last 12 months, with buyer sentiment improving drastically and inventory dropping lower than it's been since February 2006, the window of opportunity is shrinking fast. Now, I've spent an enormous amount of time tracking the housing market over the years, and many people have asked me, where do I think the market's headed? For the last few years, since the second dip in home values in 2009, my advice has been, don't worry, you have plenty of time. The market will skip across the bottom, up or down 1% or 2% for a few more years. Well, the few years have come and gone. Now, any of you who've ever worked with me knows that I don't believe in a high-pressure environment. So you must understand this next statement is truly in the best interest of the people that I represent. If you are planning on purchasing a home in the Phoenix metro area and your intentions are to take advantage of the single largest housing market collapse in U.S. history, you'll want to make that purchase as soon as reasonably possible. If you have any questions at all about any of the material you've seen here, please feel free to contact us at any time by phone or email. I'm Ken Quare, and my wife and business partner Deborah make up Team Quare of Tyler Properties. We want to thank you again so very much for taking the time to listen in. I know it was a lot of information, and we truly hope this information has in some way been useful.